Hi folks, this is Franz Hütter speaking from Germany, and this video is for all of those among you who are already interested in my course in systemic neuropsychology. So if you just happened to bump into this video and say, oh, what the heck is systemic neuropsychology? I just wish you a wonderful day, or maybe you even look at it. I mean, you can't lose anything apart from a little bit of time, and it might also be rewarding for you. Who knows? Now, an increasing number of people have contacted me from the English-speaking world, from the UK, from Canada, from the USA, and so on, who happened to hear from our online courses in neuropsychology. So the psychology based on human psychology based on neuroscience. And we've been doing that for more than 10 years in an you remember the old offline world where people used to meet each other without social distancing and the like. And this is how everything started, with workshops, especially for business people, for people who are in the human resource training sector, trainers, human resource trainers, coaches, lots of coaches, also consultants who do organizational development, people who do conflict resolution, mediation, who do supervision, and so on and so forth. Also, a few executives who want to dive deeper into human psychology of motivation, of human development, but the focus is really on people who are interested in helping people learn and develop, the classical learning and development sector. And so the course now exists as a complete online course in German. It will exist in English, but just to give you an impression, we are visual animals. We want to see what expects us. I will just give you a guided tour through the course, the learning management system, and so that you see what you get or what you would get if you decided to take part. And the course title, this is Systemische, which is German, systemic neuro, brain, and psychology, psychology, which doesn't go with the background on the green screen. Never mind, your brain will be quite fine and discerning it, and with the focus of learning and development. And now let's just have a look at the platform. So if you want to know a little bit more about the background and what's the purpose of all that, you can have a look at the homepage. Google Translator will do the rest if you aren't German speaking. But if you look at this hashtag, I think it summarizes the complete philosophy, what drives me to do that, and it's IQ to power. The reason is we see so much stupidity out there in the world, and we're just about to fuck everything up. We saw that in the in this current crisis and also in some political events of the recent past, and also in the long-term challenges we're all facing. And much of it is just bringing your limbic system under control and allowing more cortex in life, allowing more impulse inhibition, allowing more self-regulation. And this is part of the objectives of learning and development nowadays in human resource departments. So this would be some sort of mixture of emotional intelligence and cognitive intelligence. It is my claim that both of them are basically two sides of the coin of one of the same thing. And I think we can show, based on empirical evidence, that also training the cognitive, the cortex part of human being will result in better outcomes as far as behavior regulation and so on is concerned. So I think basically it's something which is supposed to help us develop new approaches. I don't say methods, because methods always sounds like tools, and we need some more tools. We've got tools, loads of tools, and the world is in such a mess despite of all those fancy tools that people have developed. And I think we don't need more tools. We need more intellectual approaches how to conceive of learning, also to define purposes and to define outcomes, desirable outcomes for learning in our human resource trainings. I think people need to have a brighter minds and better emotion regulation, for example. So this is this IQ to power philosophy. So just shortly to give you some impression of what's the purpose of all that. And I do invite you not just to visit the course, but to enter a lifelong, or as long as you want, a long-term relationship within a pool of alumni, of people who've done this course and who are now about to form a sort of think tank for, may I say, revolutionizing. I think I'll be a little bit more modest, for helping the learning and development sector evolve. We are communicating mostly via Slack and via Zoom meetings, and we are really doing some creative work together, which might contribute to reforming what is current learning of adults within businesses, within organizations. So we'll have you a short, give you a short glimpse of the learning platform. It here says it's scientific empowerment for the brains in the human resource sector, and some boasting about credentials, and this is the course, Applied Systemic Neuropsychology. There are some other courses here, but I'm just focusing on this one. And I would like to point you again, IQ to power. And it says here, the Latin saying says here, it's sometimes it's wisdom is to first take care of stupidity. And there are lots of biases within each of us, which will also be part of what we can have a look at during this course. There are 3 pillars on which the course rests, basically. This is neurobiology, is the basis of any learning that is taking place within someone's mind. So everything is building new synapses, or also demolishing some old synapses, or myelinating some fibers, making them more efficient or making them less efficient, and a few other mechanisms which contribute to a better flow of information on the neurophysiological level, and also down to the molecular level, switching, for example, epigenetic markers, DNA methylation, and so on and so forth, switching genes on and off, changing something about the intracellular signal transduction, and so on and so forth. So there is this basis which we need to consider whatever we are doing on the macroscopic level of psychology, what people have in mind, what they are motivated for, what they are thinking. If all those interventions, we will all most of the time be restricted to interventions on the psychological level, because we just most of the time are part of those few who among us who can prescribe drugs, or who will do some neurofeedback and so on, which allows people to work directly on the neurological level. But most of us in human resources, people development, and so on, will work on the psychological level. But if what we do psychologically and socially is not compatible with our biology, it will just fail. So we need to know more about neurobiology to design learning and development for the future. And there are tremendous challenges ahead. All this disruption kind of thing is just not compatible with the way the brain works, because it's neuroplasticity is organic growth, which needs to take some time, and disruption is not daily business for the brain. So we need to be quite creative to prepare people for the future, and maybe even better than our schools are preparing our children for the future. Might give some positive side effects on this level. And the third part of this is system theory, understanding systems. There is a biological system, there are psychological systems within our heads, but we are going to focus on the social systems, because, and I think this is also quite a common experience of many of us, if you give a seminar and people are designing new ways of behaving, of business models or whatever, and it doesn't fit with the organization, so the immune system of the company will come and clear out all the foreign bodies, so to say, which don't match with the signature of the organism, and people will be made even more unhappy because they've in their heads a world has been created, a new world with desirable outcomes, which just isn't compatible with what the system wants. So we need to learn basically politics. We need to learn how to influence a system, how to shake a system, how to disturb it in ways that fixed structures, sclerotic structures, are to some extent gain flexibility. These are the three pillars, and we will always be jumping from one to the other, and from the other back to the first, and so on and so forth, because reality is complex. Most seminars nowadays, it's my firm belief, infantilize adult people by didactic reduction, by oversimplifying something. Everything needs to be linear. Everything needs to be according to the maxim of keep it short and simple. Yeah, one step, the next step, and so on. And people wonder why they are hugely overwhelmed by real life complexity, because those are people who've been able to face complexity at school, at university, hugely complex theories and empirical studies and all that, and then people come into companies, and then they are taught that if something cannot be said within 7 bullet points, or with stated in a one pager, it's not mature for communicating or for execution. This is bullshit. This is indoctrinating people to be so simple that you can manipulate them. So this is basically some sort of acquired brain damage by identification, in a way, sort of Stockholm syndrome, identifying you with a hijacker who wants you to behave and who wants you to just be manageable in an easy way. So I think we need to dare more complexity, and this doesn't mean that we do not allow any structure or any shortcuts or any that didactics don't matter. Of course they do. But the most important thing is to train one's mental agility by undergoing the task of solving complex problems. And this is a wonderful playground. We will be moving between neuroscience, philosophy, sociology, economics, and all that kind of stuff. And it will all be intermingled, will intertwine to give a texture of meaning and to enable us to create something fundamentally new. I always rejoice when I have participants, former participants, who say, now I've built my business model on it. I've created something which is a completely new concept and which does meet the requirements of my target group better than anything before that did, just based on massaging my my gyri in a way that I would never ever have thought of in normal way of thinking. So basically, it's a big school of thinking and of creativity with science. And something I just don't want to have in the course is pseudoscience or bullshit. We will have a huge also impact, huge focus on theory of science. What is scientific? So much bullshit around there with learning types and with certain tests that people are doing in companies, which divide people into 4 colors, and so you're that one, and you need to do this and that with the red one, and this and that with the blue one. And I mean, it's understandable, because it's a basic human desire to reduce complexity, but it's just rubbish. So if you say, okay, I'll just use it as a starting point for discussion, but then you could also take bones and read in the bones, or do something. Just take a Rorschach blot. You know, it's just a projection into something which is basically meaningless. Yeah? But people take it for reality, and that's where it starts to rub, and that's where it starts to become dangerous. If you, I will just scroll here. Who will you be when you are a happy participant? The most of the participants you see here, they aren't 20 or so. They have some experience, professional experience. Many of them, but by the way, not all of them, have some relevant course of studies. Vivian, for example, in psychology. Ulrich teaches business psychology. Birgit is the CEO of a big trainer and coach community. Rolf is a psychologist. Anke teaches innovation and science transfer. Anna is a consultant, especially in agile environments. And Hans is a medical doctor, a neurologist. So this is, you see, a whole bunch of different professions. All of them have one thing in common: they work with people and are trying to conceive of new ways of advancing approaches to human learning and development. And I'll just give you a short introduction into the learning platform. So what will be the topics, and how will it be organized? Maybe first of all, how will it be organized? There will be 8 units of self-study courses with videos for 8 topics, because I believe that we need to have a common understanding of science, of all the facts that any meaningful discussion will rest on, which is neuroanatomy. We need to know about neuroanatomy. We need to know about neurophysiology and a little bit about molecular biology, genetics. We need to know about neuropsychology, for example, neuropsychology of language, of motivation, of social behavior, of perception, of memory, and so on and so forth. And this is what you see here. So this is the introduction. This is the first unit is about the theory of science. What makes a statement or an approach scientific, and what makes it pseudoscientific from the start, or just not in a way analyzable by the means of science. There are lots of things which work, and we just have to say, oh, well, we don't know why, and we don't pretend it's science. Yeah. And there are many claims, as I pointed out earlier, about things in our trainer and coach filter bubble, which are just bullshit. For example, the emotional right hemisphere, bullshit. It's been so much evidence against it. Something which is less obvious, for example, Ekman's universal emotional expressions. There is some recent research which suggests it's just not true. They just come up with evidence that there is a huge diversity in mimic expressions, for example, of emotions individually, culturally, and so on and so forth. And there are lots of other urban myths. And there is one thing about that always: does it really matter whether it's really scientifically correct? For example, the triune brain, the reptilian brain and the mammalian brain, and so on and so forth. Of course it's not. If people tell shit about neuroscience, I don't give a damn. As long as it's not something which seduces people to the sort of self-confirmation of dysfunctional beliefs about people, for example, or about the human condition. So many leaders, many executives, many managers tend to think in a quite mechanical way. So if we just press the right button, we can manipulate you to do this and that desired action, and so on. And if I go around with this kind of mindset and get support by neuropseudoscience, which tells you, okay, the brain is some sort of trivial machine, you just need to push that lever and press this button, and it will work in quite a predictable, trivial way, so that people just will follow, then either some of it just doesn't work, thank God. Either I'm on the bullshit sector, or some of it will work, or I'm in the basically in the Nazi sector. Yeah. And interestingly, when I speak about the theory of science, and we will discuss the theory of science, there's much of also theory about alternative facts, conspiracy theories, and fascism theory, because basically I'm not so much concerned about scientific inexactitudes, whatever, but about dangerous half knowledge, disinformation, and the narratives which lead, scientifically based or derived narratives that could lead into the abyss. Okay, now this is understanding neuroplasticity and physiology. This is anatomy. This is neuropsychology. This is systems theory. You can acquire this knowledge in a self-paced way. There's lots of videos in there, and it's some fun thing to do. And you also get audio files, and you can learn while ironing or waiting for the bus or whatever. As soon as we're out of the lockdown, well, we can ride a bus, but different story. So this is one part of it, and there will be more self-study units, but before that we will have twice 2 days of online interactive online training via Zoom. There will be 2 days online, and then after a month or so, another 2 days online. And we will always be in touch, if you want, in between, so that whenever you have any question about this stuff or would like to have a new concept supervised, for example, a new coaching concept or training concept or a project concept or whatever, just be in touch with me and be in touch with the community. We use Slack for communicating and exchanging ideas, and so that you can profit most from the course. And then we will have the tutoring, on the synchronous time, and this will be devoted 100% for your questions, for you, of course, your scientific tutoring, but also for transfer application, and especially in the second block of 2 days, 100% to developing your business concepts based on science. So this will be sometime, for example, to just tell you the story, just to get the image more concrete. At the moment, or in the last course, I had a wonderful colleague who does project management training. He has a doctorate in chemistry and worked in pharmaceutical project management, especially in the sector of immunology. And he found out that apart from the content part of it, you need to be, you know what you're doing, but it's the human factor which is quite decisive. Will it be successful? Will it not be successful? So he made it into a business, also derived from own challenges, teach other people project management. And now he also made some recently a training as a resilience trainer, stress management resilience. And then he came into the neuroscience course, into the neuropsychology course. And now he is synthesizing the three things from a perspective of project management, of resilience, and neuroscience. And we just discovered that all the knowledge he has about biochemistry, about the brain, about immune responses to stress and so on, hugely contribute to his unique selling proposition as a resilience trainer for projects, or for project management, and for also organizational resilience. And this is something which is unique, and sometimes you need some scientific material just to bring you back to the roots again. And this is quite a typical example. And many participants, they just use the science in this course, for example, for writing their own papers in magazines, or their own blog posts, or for getting improving their marketing, stating and also being able to communicate in an informative way, that they are not just doing some she kind of thing which they learned in a weekend course, and they leave comparability with all those people who did who also did trainers training, train the trainer, train the coach, and so on and so forth. Basically, all this is from a pool of humanistic psychology, some gestalt, some transaction analysis, some psychoanalysis, some cognitive behavioral therapy, and so on and so forth. So it's basically, I mean, this is not humanistic psychology, but it also enters into the and enters into trainers training and so on. But basically, it's more or less all the same. And knowing this, I'm always delighted to find my participants in a position to learn something they wouldn't ever have learned in a trainer's training or in a train the coach or whatever kind of training. And then I get the feedback, okay, with this, these impulses, we were able to develop something new, something which the difference that made the difference, and which made us stick out on the market, and also which not only was good for marketing, but also gave us more pleasure doing what we do, because it's something new, it's something derived from a deeper understanding or more conclusive models of what might be happening within the client, within the team, within the organization. And this is where it really becomes very satisfying. We have topics like neurodidactics, neuroleadership, and neurochange, also based on pretty much science, from part of it from very, very recent Ivy League research. And I think this is I would say it's a USP of this course, that it's never ever the same course, no matter how often it has been done, because there is new research coming up every week. And it is my pride to integrate it into the course. For example, research from the Institute of Coaching at Harvard Medical School, where I happened to attend a extremely inspiring talk recently. So that those are the things that always flow in it as fresh ideas into the course. And now let's just jump in, and you see here, this is the learning platform. I said the course will, if you want, accompany you as long as you want. Of course, this is not true. This is limited by my own physical existence. Once I die, it will be offline shortly, but I'm in quite a good health, so it's very probable that there will be some decades until you'll lose it. And by the way, it's enough time to save all the things, and but it might migrate to different platforms someday. But it will always be, my promise is the contents will always be available for you. And I invite you also to participate in the updates I will be making regularly. So this is just the welcome page. This is my my wonderful wife, Mareike, who is an absolute expert in learning platforms and Zoom conferences and e-learning didactics. So this is really a dream team, not only in my personal life, but also as far as optimal trainings are concerned. There are some, so here is a forum just for where you can ask questions and so on. So we will have ways of exchanging information also on the platform. There will be an additional Slack for in-depth for the think tank, which develops out of the course alumni and partners program. Just to give you a short insight into the chapters. For example, here you see this this chapter about theory of science. You get an overview, how many minutes which video will last, so that you can plan when and how to watch it. Here, for example, about EEG and fMRI and so on and so forth. And then you've got the videos, 9 minutes video this time, and also apart from the video file, the audio file, so that you can, in case you're some way visually overloaded, you can just listen to it, or if you just happen to have some time ironing or whatever, you can also just take the audio file. Here about neuro bullshit and trainer myths. You see, it's a longer video because I should be 7 days long because so much bullshit around. Never mind. And here is always a section of what is the key information in the video, so that you get some orientation. Do I want to watch it now or later? So the same thing in neurophysiology, and maybe I will jump a little bit here just to give you an impression that there is some in-depth some in-depth knowledge. This is not just for fake or for fun, so this is science. But if you decide to take part in the course, you will acquire enough knowledge to understand this kind of stuff. And it's important because being able to deal yourself with the topic, thinking scientifically, being able to enter into PubMed and enter a search term, look for a study, understand the study, and so be independent of any course, just to do your own research, to base your own work on neuropsychology. It will only be possible if you understand what's going on there, not as deeply maybe if you as in a university course, in a bachelor course, but to some extent, to some depth, which just allows you to understand the abstracts and to look up what you don't know. And this is the purpose of the course, to make you, to allow you to fly yourself. Not with borrowed wings, but with wings grown out of your own arms, and there's so much neuro books around there with the top 7, 10 insights from neuroscience for this and that. But all that just ends in instruction. Do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. Yeah, just with children, like with children. And I mean, it's hilarious. Yeah, most of those neuroscience professors, they've never seen a company from the inside, and they're telling managers how to do their management better. And all that's derivable there is yeah, some sort of superficial tips and some tricks, and so it's basically us who know how a company works and who are not from the lab trying to push some knowledge into the world of business, but people who are doing learning and development embedded in a world of business, organizations, politics, whatever, pulling science into our world and making it useful for designing new strains of thought. This is basically what this is all about. Okay, neuroanatomy. For example, here, hippocampus, and so on and so forth. You see, it's always the same structure which helps you find your way even 3 o'clock in the night. Neuropsychology, systems theory, and so on and so forth. So you just have a look at the platform. Now, what can you do if you want to take part in the course? I do invite you to share the link of this video. It is long enough to deter anybody who just isn't interested or wants to have it short and simple. And this is good, and this is legitimate also. It's for those people who want to dive into the depths of psychology, of neuroscience, and of systems theory, to be truly creative and to get a real USP on the market by having some hard facts knowledge, and which just isn't there on the market. And the basic purpose is critical thinking. You know this old rule in hypnotherapy, you go first. And I think it's the same thing with learning and development on a large scale. We go first. We go first in acquiring deeper knowledge that leads us beyond the outdated paradigms by which our society and our companies are largely driven, which are paradigms from the old industrial age of Taylorism, of having having a separation between a managerial class who is knowing and a class which gets instructions from others. This doesn't work in a world where quick decisions need to be made. So we need the brains down there where the work is done. We need intellectual people, and with intellectual I don't mean just in some caught in some abstract ponderings, but people with critical intellect, people with a creative, innovative intellect, at any level. Otherwise, we will not be able to survive. We will not be able to have our organizations develop quickly enough, to become nimble enough, to become robust, dynamic, robust enough to survive. And I think when mental agility is the topic, then we need to go first. And we, as human resource people, need to acquire some in-depth knowledge. And this is just a starting point. I know this neuroscience stuff isn't everything. Basically, we need models from philosophy, from sociology, and so on and so forth. And my promise is that it will continue after the course. There will be, in the next year, there will be a wonderful genuine psychology course. There will be a chemistry course. There will be economics courses, philosophy courses, and so on and so forth in the years to come. Because I think that it is our capacity to think and to direct, to come to terms with our limbic system, to strengthen our executive brain functions, which is vital for our future existence. I think this impulsive behavior, which leads to problems with the climate, which leads to wars, to increasing national egotism, and so on and so forth. This is the way, the downward loop, and we need more brains. I would love you to join us in this effort, IQ to Power, and to come into the course. If you are not convinced now, and how should you, just from a video? I mean, there will be no incentives. There will be no early bird price or anything, because I want to address the cortex and not the nucleus accumbens for inciting greed, or the amygdala, so to speak metaphorically, to incite the fear of missing something, some golden opportunity. I mean, if you do this, you have given up the program of corticalization, basically. So just contact me, and we will have a telephone conversation or a Zoom call, or whatever is convenient to you. Wonderful. So see you, take care, and have a good time. Franz.